Welcome to your New Hampshire National Guard podcast. We are always ready, always there. This podcast series is a production of the State Public Affairs Office.
Hello, I'm Tech Sergeant Charles Johnston with Public Affairs. I'm joined today by Tech Sergeant Slade Green and Staff Sergeant Tim Huntley, both of the 12th Civil Support Team. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You're the most senior member, Tech Sergeant Green. What exactly is the unit's mission?
So we work with civil authorities to identify, advise, assist, and assess local hazards. Whether it's working special security events for NASCAR, Boston Marathon, stuff like that, or it's an actual response call to, say, Exeter Hospital, Rochester State House, where we actually are sending somebody down to identify a substance.
Yeah, and it can be an intentional or an unintentional release of an agent. So it can be an actually premeditated domestic terrorism event, or it could be an incident, or it could be something where we don't know until the CSD actually shows up and starts figuring things out.
You're one of the most busy units in the state. You go all over, and you've had some real-world missions lately. Can you tell us about some of them?
Tim, if you want to start with the COVID mission, and then we'll get into some actual responses.
Yeah, absolutely. So like most of the Guard now, one of the big things that the 12th CSD has been doing for our mission for basically the past 2 years is COVID support. So we played a very significant early role in it, I would say, where we had a lot of different organizations and agencies asking for just the basics on how do I protect against, a viral or a biological agent, or how do I do testing aseptically so that you can interact with one person who's sick and not carry that to another one. So we did a lot of the advising role we do in that. And then we started supplementing them by doing a lot of the rapid testing when testing wasn't a readily available resource and we didn't have a large amount of guardmen spun up on how to test. So we were going to a lot of the high threat areas, like I personally did a lot of nursing home visits, things of that nature. And then about 6 months into COVID, we started hitting the election season, which we usually support the Secret Service when they come and have VIP visits while people are on the campaign trail. So they often require testing as soon as they literally touch down in state, and we were working those missions with them anyway, so it's just one of the other things we could do. And our analytical lab was also one of the first capable platforms to test for COVID. So they did a lot of support as well, and they did a lot of support for hospitals, nursing homes, you name it, for that advising in addition to it.
Yeah, we had Lieutenant Jordan help set up. He was kind of key instrumental in setting up all the remote locations, so getting all the extra beds in place, what resources they needed, getting people in, especially when the vaccination started happening. He was very instrumental in making sure that everything flowed nicely. Him, along with our physician assistant and our medic, really had a big key role in helping out with that.
You hold a lot of certifications, a lot of training certifications as a member of the CST, if I'm not mistaken. About how many hours and what types of certifications does the average member hold?
So that is going to be a long-winded answer. So baseline is about 700 hours. We're expecting everybody to be hazmat techs. So all 22 of us are expected to be able to go down range and even, up to the commander getting in a suit if need be. And then on top of that, we have 6 different sections and a multitude of military occupations and Air Force personnel requirements as well. So for me, for the IT certifications, all of our schools are pretty much civilian-based for the most set, dealing with chem, bio, rad, nuclear. We have physician assistants that need to do medical schools, our medic on top of that. And then we have people that need to go to decon schools. So everybody usually gets a little scared about coming to the team because they think they're going to be gone all the time. But you're getting a lot of good training. It really rounds you out in the state. And a lot of advanced training that you can bring to other units when you move on. Most of my certifications being in the communications section is all civilian-based. very marketable on the civilian side, as well as helping out the state if I went back to the wing, for instance.
Yeah, a lot of our training, it's, as civil support team implies, you need to be able to talk the same language and have the same skill sets of those civilian authorities. So there are actually a lot of, Common Core kind of classes. So I might go to a course in Albuquerque, and there's all kinds of different federal agencies and different military branches there, learning that one topic on, say, radiation. Like Sergeant Green was saying, it's usually about 700 hours of cumulative training to get someone fully certified in their position, and that obviously takes time. When someone comes onto the team, we send every CST member to a 2-month, essentially, CST basic type course called CSSC in Fort Leonard Wood. Some individuals might need to reclass as well to 74 Delta, which is a Chem Bio Rad Nuke MOS within the Army side. I don't know what the ASI is for air.
Yeah, but majority of our survey section, the guys that go downrange are Army-based. Our specialty slots are usually our Air Force people, our physician assistant, our medic, our comms guys. And then, you have to be 74 Delta to get on the team, so that's really nice. We'll take anybody that's can get through the board and we think it's going to be able to pick up and that we can trust out, working the Boston Marathon with FBI and state police and making smart decisions. So we usually get a good pool of some of the best and brightest out of New Hampshire, which is really nice. And then they usually work their way up, and then they move on back to the organization. Usually every 3-4 years or so, they'll come on, they'll come off. Sometimes they come back as an E7, and we get an operations guy that already has all that 700 hours of school done, which is nice. So there's a lot of opportunities, and then lately we've the last couple of years or so we've been really getting back into the National Guard side of things. Sergeant Huntley being our marksman. So we've been doing a lot more stuff. If you want to talk about some of the Army schools that you were getting a chance to go to this year.
Yeah. So in addition to all the regular, quote, CST schools and specific training we have to maintain that on the, the Army side or the air side as well. And there's a ton of schools available just through the New Hampshire National Guard that reinforce that. So we're big into competitive marksmanship and those shooting skills because we do have to arm on most of our missions. I personally do a lot of the competitive shooting stuff. I've enjoyed that. I've heard other guests on the podcast talk about it, and it's all great things. But also in my job in particular, you need to have a couple of different skill sets in order to get to wherever that mission might be. And we started sending people to schools such as Air Assault. I was recently able to attend Mountain Warfare School through the New Hampshire Guard. And there's a number of different opportunities like that we like to send individuals to. And then on top of it, we are regular guardsmen. The CST is not a separate entity, and all of us have our own individual skill sets and backgrounds, like Sergeant Green was talking about, that they come on to the CST with. They have different military skills or backgrounds that they might want to build on, and hopefully they take those skill sets they pick up there and bring it somewhere else in the organization and just make everyone more rounded and better.
Fitness is important in the military, especially so on the CST.
Yeah, especially for the guys that they'll get in a fully encapsulated suit and they can spend anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, 45 minutes downrange, getting hot. You're getting a body temp reading of 120, 125 inside the suit, just on temperature alone. So you got to be cardiovascular fit. And then the other side of that is, if you're in suit and you're in snow, it is also very cold, and you got to, be able to maintain your temperature that way. And then you have to be cognizant, while you're doing it, right? So you're getting heat fatigue when you're downrange, and after a certain point, your motor skills start going. You need to, be sharp when you're looking at a lab process, trying to figure out what you're dealing with. Last thing you want to do is knock over a lab because you got a little warm, right? Yeah. You got to kind of really focus on this. Sergeant Huntley and his guys do a lot of physical training in their supplied breathing apparatus. You might see them out running on the track or working, doing basically ruck marches and level A suits, stuff like that to kind of really get their air time up. It's crucial because you only have so much time, and it's if you get lucky, it's a shed. If you're not lucky, it's a UNH dorm building that you're searching. So it's really critical, and only having 8 personnel over there that are usually the guys or gals that go down range. You got to be really proficient with using your people to get that mission done. That's the most critical thing. So
yeah, it comes down to conditioning. You can't just walk in with a 300 out of 300 APFT score and expect to do great in suit. It takes time. It's kind of like, Sergeant Green was saying, like with rucking, like the only way to get better at that is rucking. The only way to get better on your air time, on your suit time, is being on air, being in that suit. And you'll see a new team member, they might only last 35, 40 minutes on a 1-hour rated bottle. And someone who's been at it for a couple of years might be able to go 1 hour and 45 minutes plus on that 1-hour rated bottle. And also, like Sergeant Green was saying, we're a small team, we're limited on bodies, and once you go into that contaminated environment, or as we call it, downrange, you're effectively on your own. It's yourself, your teammate, and a backup team on standby. So making sure you're monitoring yourself, making sure you're taking care of yourself the night before, not just the day of kind of thing, and doing a lot of preventative medicine is huge in that. And on top of that, we have a medical section that before we go down range or into that contaminated zone, they have to do a medical screening on us, and we even wear physiological monitors to get evaluated by them during mission. But you need a good balance of not just being tough, but you need to be mentally flexible when you're down there, because you don't know what you're going to encounter until you come on it, and you might have to basically go through the filing cabinet of your brain of what's something and I learned in one of those courses 2 years ago that's suddenly relevant now. So it requires physical training. It requires constantly staying on top of your game, constantly self-evaluating, figuring out what you're weak at, and just attacking it.
You've been on the unit, Sergeant Green, for 11 years, and you were speaking before the show started about an incident dating all the way back to 2003.
Yeah, we when the unit first started up before my time, I think we got one guy still on the team from then. We had the anthrax mission at UNH, and that was a multi-day cold event where they were getting live samples of anthrax off of drum skins, and that was one of the first ones, but that was only a couple years after starting up the unit, and that really sent the mission home for the team. And then we've always taken it seriously since then. So, having only 22 of us, a lot of us are obviously gone at training here and there. So it's really, 18, 16, something like that. It's critical to stay up on all that stuff. And then we were we've had extra to hospital where, there was 12 sick there that we rushed over, and it's, we might not always have to respond as a whole team, but we're there to augment civil authorities, right? So, if they need a piece of equipment that we have, we can send a couple experts down, show them how to use it, or go down with them and use it, try to figure out what the substance is. The main thing is that we're not trying to take over any incident or anything like that. We're just really trying to support civil authorities, whether it's local hazmat teams, firefighters, to state police, to FBI. That's really our main goal, whether it's providing communication support, analytical support, even just logistics. When we're forming our joint hazard assessment teams, we're using our Polarises and stuff and our gear, and we're getting them around into places that, they're rocking the F-450. They can't really get in there. So, like Boston Marathon, that's mostly done on all side-by-sides just to get around traffic and do all that stuff. So we're really there to support in any facet that's in our mission scope, essentially.
Yeah, we always overtrain, like anyone should. We train to the standard of a big full team response and rollout, but we've had to be extremely flexible on some of the real world missions we have, and sometimes our training does emulate that as well. I mean, just in the past year, I can think of missions or training we've done where we've boarded Coast Guard vessels and helped them do search and seizure type operations. We've air-loaded a small strike team with the aviation unit. We've gone out to Alaska 2 years ago, flew out there military air and did operations in the Arctic Circle. And constantly we're doing event and mission requests or filling in critical positions on other teams in different states all over the country when they need them.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things is that we're pretty scalable and that all the teams around the country are very similar in setup, and all the gear is the same. There might be a little bit differences here and there, just us to say Louisiana, but when we have large scale events like Boston Marathon or Super Bowls or stuff like that, we are able to just joint integrate with each other. So there's only 22 of us, but a Super Bowl is a pretty big event, so we'll fly in extra bodies from all over the country to get the mission done. You think of the Boston Marathon, you're trying to protect 26.2 miles. It's a big undertaking. So we all have the same training, we all have the same gear and the same expectations to come fill in for other states or back train. And we're all learning from each other. There's actually 57 other teams in the country.
For soldiers and airmen listening who might be interested in joining your ranks one day, about how often do vacancies arise in the unit?
It used to be pretty much like every 3-4 years. It seems like it's really started mellowing out to a couple positions a year. Really depends on what slots come available. Obviously, we have a lot of different military occupations and Air Force AFSCs. So the best way is usually we're always looking for hungry E5s to get on the team to groom. And then after 3-4 years, they get the training down. We get some rock stars. They'll go off. They'll do other things for the organization, and a lot of times they end up coming back as an E7 or an E6 to fill in a role. But the training's all done, so it's awesome. We already got somebody that's spun up, knows how to do it, and now is bringing a new skill set on. So it's pretty much just like any other job posting you see for the Guard. It gets posted out. 30 days. You do your interview, and then hopefully, you do a good job and you get hired and you get to do some cool events. So get some good training.
Yeah, definitely. And to add to that, I think there's two big misconceptions people have when they're interested in the CST. One is they think it's a job they can, or a team they can come on to straight from the civilian sector, and unfortunately, it's not. There is a baseline of experience we require. So
you can't enlist as a CST member.
Correct. So usually our entry level positions are E5 postings. Sometimes we allow E4s, senior E4s, to apply. Sometimes we allow senior E4s to apply. And really, the other big misconception is a lot of people think you have to be a 74 Delta or have experience in the CBRN field to apply, and you don't at all. What we actually commonly look for is people who have skill sets from whatever their MOS is so that they can bring that experience to the team. Anything CST related experience-wise, we know they're going to get trained here. We know they're going to get opportunities for here. We're not worried about that. What we want is skills from the outside to come on.
Yeah, and most of our equipment, because of our mission set, is civilian gear. So, it's not like we're driving Humvees around and going to the Boston Marathon. It's all what we call white equipment, civilian equipment. So even coming from any unit, field artillery, public affairs, whatever, you're not going to have any experience on it anyway. So it's just all going to be training, and it takes probably about good 3 years if you're starting out as an E5 to get really all that stuff underneath you and have a really good foot about it. And then not to mention all of our other MOSs and AFSCs that we have. There's a lot of different training, so we have a lot of different skill sets on the team, and it's interesting to see because there might be 6 MOSs or 6 74 Deltas, and not one of those guys has the same background at all. So it's very interesting to watch.
Yeah, we have. Just right now in our current sections, we have former military police, former aviation, former infantry, former field artillery. Just to name a few. So we're looking for those broad backgrounds, and the other thing that goes with it too is we're a bit more fluid within the organization than we have been in years past when teams were initially standing up and needed that initial stability. We're able to have people come onto the team that normally wouldn't have thought to come over there, and also stay there for a number of years, get that good level experience, but then bring that experience from the CST with them to other positions within the AGR network or within even the part-time units within the Guard. So we try and really emphasize being fluid. But that being said, if someone's interested in applying a team, it's going to take them a considerable amount of time, a couple of years at least, to really get proficient and get good at their job. So really, we're looking for someone who's hungry to learn, regardless of the position they're in and regardless of the experience they have.
You were, before we started rolling, Sergeant Huntley, we were talking about all the extra things that some of you guys do, like, the tag match and the Norwegian foot march event, the 18.6 mile ruck march that about 150 guardsmen attempted. And you were bragging about the unit. You care to put that out there now?
Yeah, sure. That's why we're on the air, right? So one of the things we're big into is the competitive marksmanship side. We have a practical purpose for that, and that's that we do arm domestically, and we take that very seriously, and we know there's a lot of liability that comes with it. And we also work with agencies like the Secret Service and the FBI, guys who shoot, or girls who shoot, ladies who shoot, guys and girls who shoot. And so that's one of the things that I personally am big into, and a couple of the other team members are. I've had the opportunity to compete at the national, regional, and state level, and just another plug for competitive marksmanship in the whole in the Guard. I think it's an awesome program that they have going over there.
Yeah, I mean, we support at a lot of roles. We've been really getting back out there, doing Operation Santa Claus, because we have the trailers and stuff, so delivering the presents, getting that stuff out any way we can, that if we have the time and the manpower to get people out to, back into the community, right? That's the whole point. Working with the, firefighters and stuff. We do training for them. They might have 4 shifts, right? And it's really hard to train a fire department, and we'll send guys and girls 4 days in a row, hit each 4 shifts to get them spun up on a piece of equipment or get them some suit time or whatever they want to do. So any way we can get out in the community, and if it's our mission set or competitive marksmanship or doing whatever, it's why we're in the Guard, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's great because it's a team that allows you to make your full-time career the National Guard, but also keep all those civilian connections you have. So, we have someone on the team right now who he's a former firefighter. It's a perfect relation builder with that community of first responders they have, because they can talk the language. All of us live in and around the state and work, inside and outside the office with people who are first responders in our community. Even some of our medical folks have to stay proficient, and they do that by working with civilian positions and agencies to stay proficient in their job and have real-world relevant experience. And that's what it draws back to.
Tech Sergeant Green and Staff Sergeant Huntley, thank you for coming on the podcast today to talk about the unit.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks for listening to your New Hampshire National Guard podcast.